Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. And thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, up today, another 2018 college football team preview. This one comes as a request from Patreon member Dustin S. So Dustin, this video is for you, sir. Really appreciate you supporting the channel. If anybody wants to support the channel, click the first link in the description of this video. That'll take you over to the Uncle Lou Patreon page. Get you all kinds of stuff over there, and I would really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up if you're excited about the start of the college football season too. We're really getting close now. I'm trying to wrap up these team previews. Subscribe to the Uncle Lou channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and some of them are even watchable, which is an added bonus for you. But anyway, let's get on with it. Today's preview, the 2018 Auburn Tigers. The Auburn Tigers out of the SEC Western Division. Yeah, defending SEC West champs, won the SEC West last year before losing in the SEC title game to the Georgia Bulldogs, going on to a New Year's Day 6 bowl against the one-handed man, Central Florida, and taking a beating, which was their second loss in a row in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. More on that in a minute. Yeah, anyway, but a pretty good year last year, finished in 10-4 to beat Georgia and Alabama in a 3-game stretch, both of which were ranked number 1 at the time that Auburn beat them. So a pretty good season. Didn't finish the way they wanted it to because they had to play Georgia again. I mean, they just were outmatched. But anyway, a pretty good season. Gus Malzahn, of course, gets the huge raise and contract extension, paying this guy, what, $7 million a year now? For what? I don't know. He's got a losing record to both his rivals, Auburn and Georgia. He's only won 1 bowl game the entire time he's been at Auburn. He's been there 5 years. He's got 1 bowl win, the Birmingham Bowl. Pathetic. Can't win outside of the state of Alabama. Struggles on the road. Can't win in Atlanta when it counts. Lost to LSU last year on the road. Lost to Clemson on the road. Lost to Georgia in Atlanta. Lost to Central Florida in Atlanta. But 10-4 by Barn standards, pretty good year. Who do they lose? Not a whole lot. They lose some running backs. Of course, Kerryon Luggage is gone. Kerryon Johnson is gone. The other guy, Cam Petaway, is gone. You talk to Auburn fan, they're more than willing to tell you that they're 8 deep at the running back position. Of course, that's kind of hard to believe because if you've been following Auburn for the last 2 years, they had elite running backs through most of the season. Gus Malzahn rides them into the ground. They don't do any type of rotation thing. They have nobody behind these guys, so they just give these guys 25, 30 carries a game. They can't hold up. And by the end of the season, they're pretty much useless. That happened with Petaway a couple of years ago, happened with Kerryon Johnson last year. Cam Martin taking over this year. More on that in a minute. But let's start with the quarterback, Jarrett Stidbaloney. Now, this guy had a pretty good year. Led the SEC in completion percentage. I think he was like 6th in the nation, actually, in completion percentage. So a pretty good year, throwing for just over 3,100 yards. He's more of a traditional pocket passer than what you're used to seeing Auburn have. He's not a Nick Marshall or a Scam Newton. He's not that. He's more of a traditional drop back pocket passer. He's got some mobility and he can move around a little bit. It's sort of like a Jake Fromm type of deal. Not a dual threat quarterback, but a little bit of mobility. But a traditional pocket passer and a pretty good one, especially when he's got time to throw the ball. He struggles a little bit when he gets under pressure. If you watched the Auburn versus Clemson game from last year, if you watched the second Georgia game, you get some pressure on Jarrett Stidbaloney, and he tends to break down a little bit. He gets happy feet. He doesn't like, he likes a clean pocket. You get some traffic around him, and he's pretty easily affected. We'll see what happens this year if they're able to protect him or not. Speaking of protecting him, offensive line, going to be an issue for Auburn this year. Well, let me take that back. Hard to say if it's going to be an issue, but it's definitely a question mark and a concern right now. 5 out of the last 6 games last year, Auburn started 4 seniors on the offensive line. So obviously those 4 starters are gone. So you got a lot of work to do on the offensive line in terms of filling those holes left by those graduating seniors. 3 of your spots, I think you'll be really, really good. 2 of them, I think, are kind of up in the air a little bit. I don't think your offensive line will be as good as last year. I know Auburn fans will argue with me. You guys think you have the best position group at every single level on offense and defense every single year. But I'm just telling you how I feel. I don't think your offensive line will be as great as it was last year, and I think that could spell a little bit of trouble for Jarrett Stidbaloney if he doesn't figure out how to throw in traffic. Wide receivers. You're not hurting at wide receiver. Well, not figuratively. Literally, you're hurting. You lost 2 wide receivers for the season during the offseason with injuries, knees. I hate to see this. I hate injuries anytime, but I've said this before. These preseason injuries or fall camp injuries are the absolute worst. But you lose Stove and Hastings to injury. But you got a lot of returning talent at the wide receiver position led by Davis. What's his first name? Ryan. Set a school record last year with 84 catches. And you got plenty of other talent and experience to go along with him at the wide receiver position. So you won't be hurting there. Auburn could be a pretty dangerous passing team this year if they can give Stidbaloney time to sit back and throw the ball. What are you looking like on defense? Unfair, really, at front 7. The only 2 teams, really, that I could compare Auburn's front 7 to would be Clemson and Michigan. I think those 3 teams right now have a better front 7 even than Alabama, than Georgia, than Ohio State, than any other team that most people consider to have a really good defense. I like Auburn, Clemson, and Michigan's front 7, and Auburn is right up there with those other 2. You get Brown, Russell, and Davidson back. These are future NFL players, okay? All 3 of these guys are going to be playing on Sundays when their college careers are over. Now, you will miss Jeff Holland, an elite playmaker last year. Pressure on the quarterback. Really could do it all up front for you. You're going to miss him, but like I said, no one's going to feel sorry for you with Brown, Russell, and Davidson up there. You're loaded at the linebacker spot, too. Biggest problem you'll have at linebacker is figuring out a way to make everybody happy. I mean, you've got absolute beasts and studs at the linebacker position, too. Front 7, there's really nothing negative, bad, concern, question mark, nothing you can say about Auburn's front 7. It's absolutely elite. Question marks on Auburn's defense are going to lie in the secondary. Now, you've got some veteran corners. I don't know if I would consider them to be elite, but they're above average. I mean, they're more than capable corners, and they've got a lot of experience. So I think corner, you'll be okay. Your issue with Auburn is depth, really, in the defensive secondary, experienced depth in the secondary. When you go into 5 and 6 defensive back packages, nickel and dime type looks, you're going to probably have some true freshmen out there. And let's just be real, no matter how highly rated they are recruit-wise or whatever, you never really know how these guys are going to perform until you see them doing it out there on a Saturday. So if you're looking at Auburn's defense and trying to find a weakness, you'd have to say it's the secondary. Do I think Auburn's secondary will be bad? No, that's not what I'm saying. When you're talking about an elite defense here, you got to try to find anything you can, and there is no weakness on the defensive line. There is no weakness at the linebacker position. If you're going to have success against Auburn this year, it's most likely going to come through the air, in my opinion, and taking advantage of that secondary. All right, let's go ahead and put Auburn's 2018 schedule up on the screen. You guys know by now how we do this. I'm going to go through the schedule pretty quick the first time. I put games into 3 different categories: guaranteed wins, guaranteed losses, and toss-ups. If I see no way possible Auburn will lose a particular game, I'll just say that's a win, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. I'll do the same thing with losses. And then if I think a game could go either way or has the potential to be a good game or whatever, I'll list it as a toss-up. Then I'll go on to the next game. And after I run through that schedule real quick like that, I'll go back through the schedule and stop at each of those toss-up games, and I'll spend more time talking about those games. And I will pick a winner and a loser for every single game on Auburn's regular season schedule this year and try to come up with an overall record for you by the end of this video. So, all right, here we go. Let's take a look at the schedule. Week 1, no time to try to figure things out here. You got Washington. Now, the good news is you don't have to go to Washington to play them. The bad news is you got to go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and you can't win there to save your life. You got absolutely murked by UGA, and then an embarrassing loss to Central Florida on New Year's Day. And yeah, we've heard all the excuses. You didn't want to be there. You didn't care about the game. You had an injury. We've heard all that. I'm pretty sure you had 85 scholarships, same as everybody else in America. So I don't know why Auburn keeps falling back on this injury thing, but it's their favorite thing to do. I mentioned in the team preview portion of this video, Auburn's secondary potentially being a weakness, and in nickel and dime packages probably having to play some true freshmen. That's not good when you're playing Washington. Jake Browning is an elite quarterback, okay? Anything good you can say about Jarrett Stidbaloney, you can also say about Jake Browning. And Jake Browning has been doing it for longer at a much more consistent level. He's been there what seems like forever. He's got wide receivers too. He's got an elite running. They've got a running back better than anybody on Auburn's team. I can tell you that right now. I like Cam Martin. Averaged 6.1 a carry last year in limited action for Auburn, backing up the other guy, Kerryon Johnson, 6.1. But Miles Gaskins at Washington, absolutely elite, lightning in a bottle type of thing. This guy's a home run hitter. One missed tackle on the edge, and this guy could be gone for a touchdown. It's scary. Jake Browning, not going to make a lot of mistakes, throws with a high completion percentage, has weapons on the outside. They're gonna spread you out, and they're gonna attack that secondary, and that secondary had better be ready to go right off the jump, or this game's not going to go well for you. I'm an SEC homer, so it doesn't matter whether I hate Auburn or not. I always pull for the SEC in this game, in these types of games here, but this is a legitimate toss-up game. I think the spread on this game is 2 or 3 points in Auburn's favor. A true toss-up game in my mind. I'll give you a winner or a loser on that here in a minute. Week 2 at home, Alabama, loss. Oh, I'm sorry, Alabama State, win. Yeah, you probably beat Alabama State. No sense in talking much about that one. You'll score as much as you want, and they'll barely score any, or maybe a little. You'll win. LSU at home. I put this as a toss-up just because they beat you last year. You had 3-touchdown lead on them in the second half. What was it, 24-3, 28-3, something like that? They come back and beat you. LSU wasn't a very good team last year. Most people think they won't be a very good team this year either. I think they're improved at the quarterback position, though, getting that transfer, Burlow, whatever his name is, from Ohio State. It'll be an improvement over what they used to have. Problem is they still got Ed Orgeron. I had that as a toss-up game, but you know what? You have it at home. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you I think you win that game. I think you beat LSU. So your second straight win. Could be undefeated depending on what happens at that Washington game, which I'll get back to in a minute. At home against Arkansas. The worst, if not one of the worst teams in the SEC. Definitely the worst team in the West. Every preview I've done that's had Arkansas on the schedule, I've said the same thing, so I'm going to say it again now. I'm a buyer in Chad Morris in the long term. If you think of Chad Morris in Arkansas as a stock, now is a good time to buy it. But you don't want to sell it right now. You want to buy and hold. Arkansas is not going to be good this year. They're probably not going to be very good next year. It's going to take a lot of time, in my opinion, for Chad Morris to install his system at Arkansas. He likes to spread you out and run a bunch of plays. Brett Bielema, their previous coach, wanted 400-pound linemen, 2 yards, cloud of dust type of thing. No matter how good of a coach Chad Morris is, they don't have the players there right now, talent-wise or ability-wise, in terms of their skill set to run that type of offense. If he can get a couple of good recruiting classes in, I think he has the potential to get things turned around at Arkansas. Not going to happen this year. You'll beat them without a problem. Southern Miss at home. Are you ever playing any road games, Auburn? Neutral site and then 4 straight home games, but Southern Miss, you'll beat them too. Southern Miss, they have some good years where they can compete with some of the lower tier Power 5 teams, but they can't compete with Auburn. I don't think they'll be able to move the ball on Auburn. This game won't be close either. I think you handle Southern Miss. Now things get interesting because you got to go on the road at Mississippi State. You ask 100 people to pick a dark horse winner out of the SEC this year, most of those 100 people are going to name Mississippi State. They're not going to name Georgia, Auburn, or Alabama because that wouldn't technically be considered a dark horse pick. But a lot of people are high on Mississippi State this year. Obviously, they get Nick Fitzgerald back. They've got a lot of returning talent at all 3 levels on both sides of the ball. They're going to have a good running game. Fitzgerald, not an elite passer, but can pass when he needs to. Defense going to be good, not great on all 3 levels. You have to play them there. You're no good on the road. Mississippi State has one of the best home field advantages in the SEC because of that outdated, stupid-ass rule that they allow these farmers to bring in their stupid cowbells and ring them the whole time, which is the dumbest thing in all of college football. Noisemakers are barred and banned in every other state in America. For some reason, the SEC lets Mississippi State get away with this. It's ridiculous. That's a toss-up game. It could go either way. New coaching staff there, but they have some talent and can be a dangerous team. You come back home and you play Tennessee. win. Tennessee, I'm sorry. They're just talent-wise, they're not there. Is Jeremy Pruitt a good head coach? No one knows. He's never coached before. I have a feeling even if he is a good head coach, you won't see that this year. New head coaches tend to make a lot of mistakes. Play calling, clock management, end of half management, substitution issues, things like that. You tend to see, we saw a lot of that with Kirby Smart in 2016 at UGA. So talent-wise, I don't think Tennessee is there, and I think it's going to take a while for Pruitt to get his sea legs there. This is in the middle of a brutal stretch of games for Tennessee where they have to play Florida, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina in 5 straight games. They'll be lucky to win any of those, to be honest. They pose no threat to you. This year, you'll handle Tennessee without a problem. Then you turn around and go back on the road at Ole Miss. I gave you a win at Ole Miss, but I'm going to tell you right now, if your secondary is worse than what some people are predicting it to be, this game could be one of those sneak-up games. Now, a lot of teams, you're a better team than Ole Miss. Don't get me twisted there. But if you've been watching my other preview videos, you know this is one of my favorite sayings, but most teams lose 1 game a year that they're not supposed to lose, right? This could be the game that Auburn loses that you say, how did Auburn lose that game? They're much better than Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to throw the ball around. They've got NFL wide receivers. They love their quarterback, that TAMU guy. If you don't have the back end sewed up by the time this game rolls around, this could be interesting to watch. I gave you the win though, but that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Then you get your bye week. Bye week comes at a good time. Just past the middle point of the season here. You play 8 games, get a bye week, then you get your last 4. Texas A&M at home. Texas A&M is going to be a good team under Jimbo Fisher. I think of the new coaches in the SEC, he probably comes into one of the better situations. Mississippi State's a pretty good team this year because of Nick Fitzgerald. Not sure how long they can keep that going once he leaves. But Texas A&M is in the middle of a recruiting hotbed. Jimbo Fisher's a proven winner at Florida State, winning a national title. Now, you can say it was a fluke or a one-hit wonder or because it was of Jameis Winston. You can say whatever you want to say, but the point is he found a way to get it done. He's an improvement over what they had there before. It was just a bad fit there with Kevin Sumlin. I'm not knocking Kevin Sumlin as a coach. That was just a bad fit from the start. So I think Texas A&M is going to be a better team immediately under Jimbo Fisher than what we've seen in years past. But I do not think they have what it takes this year to beat Auburn, especially with you guys getting them at home. So I gave you the win there. And then, of course, the bad news, you play at UGA, loss. You're not winning that game. You struggle on the road. You've only beat UGA 3 times in the last 10 years. I don't think you beat us in Athens since, 2008 or 2009, something like that. You didn't play good on the road last year. Georgia, say what you want about Georgia and who we lost or whatever. Our roster is loaded from top to bottom. Our last 3 recruiting classes are 6-3-1. You play us at home. I just can't see you winning this game. I have to give you a loss there. You go back home, lick your wounds, and play Liberty. Well, I don't even know what that is. Is that really a Bible college? God bless, I guess. I don't know, but you'll beat them senseless. But then you got to turn around and go on the road and play your big brother Bama. Another loss for you. I don't trust Gus Malzahn to win these big road games. I just don't. Until he starts winning a few of them, it's hard to pick him to beat him. He's got a losing record against Georgia and Alabama both. That's going to continue this year. I don't see him beating either UGA or Alabama. Congratulations, you beat us both last year at home. 2 of the biggest wins in the history of your entire football program, to be honest. And you've spent the last 8 months talking about those 2 wins because you have nothing else to talk about. I guess you're going to spend the 8 months after this season talking about these 2 losses because you're not winning either one of these games. These 2 teams are just better than you this year, and you got to play them both on the road, which is bad news for the Barner. Gus Malzahn can't win big games on the road, 1-4 in bowl game. I mean, I could go on and I'm not going to waste time. All right, let's go back to Washington because I picked the winner on every other game. I'm going to go back to Washington here. This is, in my opinion, this is the hardest or second hardest week 1 game to pick. I think LSU, Miami is pretty difficult. I think Notre Dame, Michigan is pretty difficult to pick. This is a hard game to pick here because I do believe Auburn is the more talented team. The back end at Auburn just worries me going into this Washington game. And Auburn's got an elite front 7, like as far as shutting down the run goes, between the tackles especially, but Washington's not going to run the ball 40 times between the tackles on you. They're going to do some tricky stuff. I mean, you got to remember, Chris Peterson is the coach out at Washington. He's going to pull every trick out of the hat in this game. This is a make or break game for Washington, I think. I think this game means more to Washington than it does to Auburn. Auburn can lose this game, and then in theory, they play enough good teams here. They can make this loss up and still have a chance at the playoffs. With the reputation that the Pac-12 has, last year not making a playoff, no team made the playoff in the Pac-12. They went 1-9 in bowl games. With the reputation that the Pac-12 has, I feel like this is a must-win game for Washington. I think Jake Browning is going to take advantage of your secondary, and I think Washington wins a close game here. And I'm not doing that to trash talk. Like I said, I know I throw a few jokes in when I do these videos, but let's just be honest, they'd be boring as hell if I didn't. And you got to pick a few upsets when you do game picks, or again, it's boring. I mean, upsets happen all the time. This technically would be an upset because you're favored by 2 or 3 points, but upsets happen all the time. Clemson lost to Syracuse last year. Oklahoma lost to Iowa State. Ohio State lost to Iowa. Georgia lost to Alabama. So, I mean, lesser teams sometimes get lucky and beat better teams. It just happens. I think Washington gets the win. And guess what that means for you? An 8-4 season with losses to Washington, at Mississippi State, at UGA, and at Bama. You lose 4 road games. Well, 3 true road games and 1 neutral site game in Atlanta, where you're sitting at 0. You have a 2-game losing streak in Atlanta. You make it 3 in a row with a loss to Washington. You finish at 8-4, extending your streak, which dates all the way back to 1988, of never having back-to-back 10-win seasons in the last, what is that? Is that 30 years ago? So you haven't had back-to-back 10-win seasons since 1988. You had 10 wins last year. You're not having 10 wins this year. It's just the way it is. Don't forget to tell me down below why I'm wrong. I do think it's possible Auburn could go 9-3. And if they beat Washington, I think it's possible they could go 10-2. There's no way possible in my mind they're going any better than 10-2. I don't think it's at all possible for them to beat Georgia or Alabama this year, both on the road in a 3-game stretch. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's happening. I do think it's possible they beat Washington, even though I'm picking Washington to win. And I do think it's possible they beat Mississippi State, even though I'm picking Mississippi State to win. But again, you got to pick some upsets sometimes. Those are the 2 that I'm picking for Auburn. I have you at 8-4. If things go really bad, you could be 7-5. Things go really good, you could be 10-2. I don't see you winning the West this year, though. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you're not already. Thumbs up this video. Live show today at 3 p.m. Eastern, call-in show. If you haven't checked out the call-in show, you really need to. It's a lot of fun. We take calls from football fans from all around the country. We have a good time. That's 3 o'clock Eastern every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We also do it Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 10. But today's Wednesday, so 3 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate y'all watching. I really do. And I hope you have a great morning. Ah!